Hello, and thanks for listening to the Adulting is Easy podcast, where we make adulting easier by making money easier. This is your host, Lauren. Please take a second and hit the follow button wherever you're listening, like on YouTube. This is our first video intro on YouTube. Pretty excited about that. So if you can safely do so, please hit the follow button. Please comment, leave reviews, things like that. So I'm joined today by Litan Yahav, a former Israeli naval officer who, together with his co-founder, Tomer Salvi, established and successfully sold Segoma, a revolutionary diamond display technology that disrupted the global diamond industry. Following their exit, both became passive real estate and private equity investors with complex and diverse investment portfolios. With no existing technological solution to manage, track, and monitor their wealth and a full range of investment assets, they decided to build a startup for planning and controlling their wealth and the wealth of others like them. And so Vyzer was born. Vyzer also happens to be the sponsor of today's episode. It is the most advanced platform to track and plan your passive income and net worth. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for joining me, Litan.
I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Lauren.
I'm excited too. And our goal for today is to make adulting a bit easier for our listeners by discussing a personal finance topic, since managing money is a big part of adulting. So today we're going to give listeners some tips and talk through starting their own business. But before we dive in completely, can you tell us a little bit more about your first business, about Segoma?
Yeah, for sure. A little background. So I'm 40 years old, married, 3 kids, and I was in the Navy for 6 years, and after that, I went to school and studied law and business. And then during my last year of studies, me and my co-founder met at this entrepreneurship program, and we were sort of looking for a business to build. Just like, all right, let's just find, ideate, see what's out there, what opportunities there are, what problems there are in the world that haven't been solved yet, and let's try and solve them and build a business out of that. It started sort of as an educational process, and we turned it into a business. So basically, like we met with a ton of people, visited a lot of different offices in different industries, and during these meetings, we met with people in the diamond world. So diamond exchange is a very closed industry, and we had a ticket in to speak with some people that are in the diamond trade in Israel, which is where I live. I was born in the States, but moved to Israel when I was a kid, and so you walk into this building with the highest level of security you've ever seen in your life, but then you feel like you walk 50 years back in time. Like you're back in the 50s, walking down hallways with notes on the doors saying, I'm looking to buy this and this diamond, I'm looking to sell these and these diamonds. And you see brokers walking down these hallways with suitcases filled with diamonds and knocking on doors and looking to buy and sell diamonds. So it was like totally surreal for us. Like we're in tech, like you can buy a Porsche on eBay, and you have to walk down hallways to buy diamonds or sell diamonds. And we said, all right, there might be a whole opportunity here of an inefficient industry, and let's dive in and see like what works and what doesn't. And so and again, one of the cool things about diving into a business that you know nothing about is that you sort of don't have the inhibition, or so you don't have any boundaries. You said everything's possible. Yeah, I mean, why can't you sell a diamond without physically seeing it? Like why can't you send a picture of a diamond to someone else across the world and show them what they're buying and then ship it to them based on that image? And so after sort of researching the hell out of that industry, we decided to build a business, which basically was a business around helping diamond dealers, diamond manufacturers around the world photograph their diamonds, very high resolution 3D imagery, and then instead of shipping those diamonds around the world for sale, just send an image of ours, and then they'll decide based on that image if they want to buy it or not. And there was a lot of skepticism in the industry that we're never going to be able to build the technology that will be able to duplicate that feeling. Like we actually had diamond dealers tell us like, I want to smell the diamond. Like what the hell is, I mean, come on, how do you even duplicate that into technology? Or I want to see the life of the diamond. So anyway, so there's a lot of like trial and error and a lot of convincing to this very old archaic industry. But we were lucky enough to have amazing people and build a business that revolutionized the way diamonds are traded around the world. That was back in 2012 when we started the company. And what we ended up building was basically a piece of hardware, a microwave machine, which you just put a diamond in and photographs it from very many angles and creates a 3D image that you can then send a link to instead of shipping a diamond. And we offer this as a service. We never sold these machines. We opened up offices within the diamond exchanges around the world. Diamond dealers and manufacturers brought us their diamonds. We photographed them in our machines, gave them back a username and password to our website, from which they then share those images to the other diamond dealers around the world, or jewelry stores that source their diamonds from these dealers, and created a whole standard for diamond imagery. And we sold the company back in 2015 to a U.S. retailer called JamesAllen.com, which was then acquired by a larger retailer called Signet, which operates Sales, Jared, Kay, and all those. And today, I mean, we left the company in 2018. At that point, we were about 250 employees, essentially photographing all the diamonds in the world. Today, it's the standard for diamond imagery. And so that's sort of that business. We sold that, again, back in 2015, made money. We didn't make tens of millions of dollars in that exit, but we made enough money, for us to take a minute, decide what we want to do next, travel a bit. And when we left in 2018, started sort of like ideate, me and my co-founder, what we wanted to do next. That's a little background about that business.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So, did you always knew you wanted to open a business rather than say right out of school or right out of the Navy, just get a different job?
I mean, so when I finished my Navy service, I worked on yachts, like teaching people how to sail, but always had this sort of spark for entrepreneurship, mainly sort of like seeing things that didn't work in an efficient way, that didn't make any sense, and try to find ways to solve those problems. So I think for me, it was more like the passion to solve problems with technology. And obviously, when you do a good job and you bring value to people, then there's a monetary aspect of that creates an upside. But for me, the sort of the motivation was to find an efficiency and solve it. That would lead then to money.
And I think a lot of young entrepreneurs or young people, they think about it backwards. They're like, how can I make a lot of money? And they don't start with how can I bring value to people, if you will.
Yeah, I think even in the startup world, as entrepreneurs sort of like look for businesses to build, I see it many times happening backwards, not just in the sense where I want to make money, but in the sense that, hey, there's this really cool solution for something, either tech or something that I've seen. Let's see how I can take that and apply it to a specific problem. And then it happen. I mean, there are situations where that works amazingly, but most times you're sort of trying to adapt a solution to a problem, and it doesn't fit exactly, but you try to sort of like manipulate things to make it fit, and it doesn't always lead to a successful business. And so I think the best way is to always find a problem that resonates with you, or you found an industry that has this problem that you understand that this problem really affects that industry in a bad way, and you can solve it to some extent. And if you manage to execute that solution in a good way, then money will come. That's the way I see it. And there are a lot of challenges on the way, right? It's not that simple, but overall, that's the way I see it.
What I think is interesting about your story is you weren't a jeweler. You weren't in the field that you ended up really revolutionizing. Do you think that actually helped you because you didn't take for granted things the way they were?
100%. I think that like you don't have those blocks like horses have on their eyes, like you only look in one direction, because you have that freedom to look everywhere. Listen, I don't even I do not have a technological background. Like I come from law and business, and even we had a CTO or co-founder who led all the technological aspect of our company. And because sort of we just believed that anything's possible. Like, I mean, any technological solution can be built. So we didn't even have those limitations, not just the industry side, but also like the technological side. Yeah, I mean, we're going to fix this. Doesn't matter how hard it's going to be. How difficult can it be to photograph an image in like a diamond in 3D? Like you can photograph a Porsche in 3D and sell it on eBay. Why can't you photograph a tiny diamond? It ended up being more challenging than we thought from a technological standpoint. But yeah, I think when you don't have those limitations, it enables you to just jump right in and see things that others that were in the industry can't identify.
Yeah, and I mean, have you seen some of these pictures of planets in space? I mean, come on, right? You know?
Exactly.
So I have a question about entrepreneurs in general. Do you think, because you said, you kind of always had this inkling maybe that you wanted to be an entrepreneur, even if you kind of didn't know. And a lot of entrepreneurs I know, I mean, Warren Buffett, right? He started working when he was like, I don't know, 11 or something. And other entrepreneurs that I know, they start little businesses. Maybe it's like they have a paper route or they have a lemonade stand or whatever it is. Do you think entrepreneurs are born or do you think they can be made?
I think that's a great question. And books and courses have been written and led in the top universities in the world about that question. I can say from my 2 cents, I think that like high level, you're either born an entrepreneur or you're not. I think it's because it's this passion to take risks because there's nothing rational about entrepreneurship. Like everything is against you. Chances are you're going to fail, and so there's nothing rational about going down this entrepreneurship route. And you need to be somewhat screwed up to think that you'll be able to do things that someone else didn't. And so I mean I do think that there are levels. It's a spectrum. Like I don't think that anyone is born a good entrepreneur or a bad entrepreneur. I think that if you have that spark, then it can be nourished and then developed into something bigger. And I do think most people have it, but I don't think everyone. I mean, and also I've spoken with people like I'll speak with people that do not have any passion or desire to become an entrepreneur, and you see it. I mean, and it's fine. Like none of us have to be entrepreneurs, and so yeah, I do think that it is something that it is you're born with it or you're not. I think most people do have it. Most people don't believe in themselves that they'll be able to go through it and accomplish that they have this ability or not. But yeah, I think it's more common than people believe. That is something that I do believe in.
Yeah, I tend to agree too. And I sometimes think of it as maybe you're born like majoring in it, but you can kind of learn to like minor in it, sort of like kind of do
Yeah,
this like nurturing and make that a part of you. I also want to
yeah, totally.
ask, so you mentioned co-founders a couple times. How
Hmm.
did you know that these were people that you could go into business with? I mean, obviously there's tons of horror stories about that where it ends badly. How do you work with somebody else and how do you know who the right people are?
Yeah, Lauren, you have some really good questions. Yeah, so definitely, I think one of the main reasons startups fail or businesses fail is because partners disagree and like best friends become worst enemies, right? For me, this might sound stupid, but the first thing that we have always done, not just with co-founders, but also with employees, is something you call the beer test, which is it's stupid, like it's not a real test, but like the beer test for us is you're going to work hard and grind with these people. And if at the end of a very hard day at 2 a.m. you feel like getting a beer with this person, they pass the beer test. And so that's like one, it's a stupid test, but it works for us, both like team members and whatnot. But that's really important to get out of the way from the get go. And then after that, it's sort of a balance between personalities. So, like me and my current co founder, we're very similar people. We do not really complete each other from a professional standpoint. I'm the CEO of our company, and I wasn't the previous one of Segoma. He's the COO of the company, and he was the previous one. And we get along really well. And I think the important thing is there's like, even if we have a conflict, like we don't agree on something, we're always going to resolve it within a few minutes to an hour. Like there's nothing that we can't resolve between each other. And that also has to do with the fact that we also really respect each other, obviously, but there's no ego between us. Because I think many of the times it's an ego situation that sort of blows things up. And yeah, so we're really lucky. I mean, honestly, like we have a really good relationship. It's really sad to see the things that happen between co-founders that don't get along or partners that don't get along. Like, it blows up the business.
I love that. The beer test. That's interesting. So, in Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, it's a book for anybody that hasn't heard of it. Good book. He talks about beginning with the end in mind. And I've always kind of wondered, did you start Segoma knowing you wanted to sell and exit? And did you have a timeline for that? Or did you just kind of trust if you solved an industry's biggest problem that you would figure it out and good things would come from it?
I think the latter. I think that we founded Segoma trying to build a technological solution that would bring value to the industry, like create a standard, and then then people are hooked on it and we can monetize on that. Obviously, I mean, so Segoma was never a business that we thought would be $1 billion company. It was a business that we thought would solve a niche issue, be a market leader in that industry, and then monetize on that. And there are companies that could potentially acquire us, but we just thought of building a business that would bring value. Obviously, when you raise money from, at least in our world, from VCs and angel investors, there has to be an exit strategy. It either is selling the company to some bigger company or going public. There aren't many other options when it comes to a startup, because most times startups do not end up being a profitable business that keeps operating and generating revenue. That's usually profits. That's usually not the model that we live in. I think in other businesses that is also a great model, just creating a lifestyle business that you just build, create enough value. Hopefully you're able to create sort of this streamlined passiveness that runs fuels on its own. But for us, at least, it's if you don't reach that exit or IPO, usually it's very hard to raise funding. So you have to have that exit strategy in mind. In the previous company, like I said, we didn't really articulate it. We had something in our mind, but it wasn't sort of like we didn't think it'd end the way it would end. That was like totally luck.
So did they approach you?
So this was sort of like this synergy aspect. So we raised money from the same company that actually ended up buying us, and the synergy of the acquisition created, like one of those things. 1+1 is 3. Like it was just like, because both companies progressed a lot faster when both of us were combined. So that's why it was lucky. We had a relationship. It's not that they did approach. They said that, yeah, I mean, we want to put an offer on the table to buy you guys out. We really believe in what you're doing. Even after they bought us out, we remained an autonomous company, just owned by this other company. So it was really one of those situations where you're in this golden cage where everything's easy. It's just an operation to build. I mean, easy, right? It's not easy. There are challenges, but different types of challenges. When you build a business, there's all these marketing and sales and like building the funnels and stuff like that. And then it just became a company that's just an operation. Let's increase the operation. Let's photograph more diamonds and build more machines and open a new location here and a new location there, which is great. But it's for an entrepreneur, a tech entrepreneur, you always have that passion to solve more problems and sell more. So that's sort of when that point we decided to move on.
Did you ever think you weren't going to solve the problem? You weren't going to create the technology and the machine wasn't going to work?
For sure. Yeah, multiple
Really?
times. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you can never, I don't think you can never be that sort of in euphoria that everything's going well. It's not, it's hard. Like you need to convince people. There's a lot of trust involved in this industry. And you need to educate a market that's used to smelling diamonds that they don't need to smell diamonds anymore, right? They can see a link and based on that link, buy it instead of. I guess smelling it has a different connotation when you say that, but I mean,
It's just cracking me up. Like, I'm sure they have a smell, right? And obviously smell is attached to
they
like
don't, they
your
don't, they
brain,
don't, they
like
don't.
anything. Maybe it's the
There's no.
packaging that has the smell, and then they
No, no,
associate. I don't know. I
it's
don't
not.
know.
No, it's not. It's just a phrase it's a phrase they use. It just doesn't mean anything. Even the phrase that they use to sort of, I want to see. So we had people, many diamond dealers say, I want to see the life of the diamond. How do you translate that into an image? It's hard, right? So we spent a lot of time. Anyway, there are a lot of challenges, but yeah, I mean, we pulled through it. And again, there is a lot of luck involved, and I think it's not a cliche when people say like you have to be like 90% lucky, but it's not just that. It's also identifying like where the opportunity is when you're lucky.
I love your story too, that you're listening so much to people in the industry, making sure it is a fit. I think sometimes people decide, and I know, right? I know about the Henry Ford quote, right? If I asked my customers what they wanted, they would have told me faster horses, right? They wouldn't have said I want an automobile. And that's kind of what you were doing, right? Like, you're like, I know you want to smell the diamond, but you really should have this, right? But you're also listening to them to see how close you can get to giving them exactly what they want.
Right. I don't think it's a matter of asking them what they want. It's asking them where their pain points are. Like what hurts you
Right.
at the moment in this flow that's called selling diamonds. If you ask your customers what they want, you're going to get a long list of things that they don't really need. What they need is something totally different. So yeah, and there's always a balance between like talking, listening, and seeing how they actually use it. So
Right. Right. So you like building businesses more than you like operating them. So is that how Vyzer started? Or did Vyzer start some other way? We heard a little bit in your bio, but I want to hear more about that.
yes, so when we sold the company back in 2015, that was like 7 years ago. We made some money. We didn't make tens of millions, but we made enough money sort of to, like I said, manage it, take a minute. And over the years, we started to deploy it, managing on our own into various investment products, many of it being sort of real estate syndications in the US, in Europe, startups, private equity, crypto, just a lot of different stuff. It was sort of this approach to try and generate as much passive income as possible from these investments, but also sort of aggressively increase our wealth by doing so. So like we're young, we can take risks. We're looking for like that double digit IRR return, annualized return. And if we can find ways to do so, we'll do it. So that's sort of what hit that off with our investment thesis. And so over the years, we started to just invest that way. And so by doing so, sort of, all right, so we have an investment, we put 50,000 into this product, 100,000 into that. We started to receive sort of annual distributions every quarter. And then there's a liquidation event here and a refinance there. And so like at some point about 2.5 years ago, we reached this point where our spreadsheet became insane. These are good problems to have, all right? I'm not complaining about them. I'm just saying these are issues that we faced when we started to deploy cash into multiple asset classes. So our spreadsheet became insane. We had multiple bank accounts, cash coming in, going out, and documents coming in from different operators or fund managers or investment products every quarter, every month, every year, taxes. It just became a headache for us. And like we wanted to do this passively, but then it ended up being active just to manage it all. And so we said, screw this. Let's just build, I mean, we're in tech. Let's just build ourselves a platform to automate as much of this process as possible. And by during that process, when we start to build this platform for ourselves, a lot of friends and family wanted it as well. And we're like, wait, hold on. There might be a bunch of people like us out there that are suffering from the same inefficiencies, the same problems. Let's research the world and see where we're at. And so during that process, which was months, I'd say 4 to 6 months, we spoke with hundreds of people around the world, mainly in the US, and found that at the end of the day, there are millions of people like us that have two choices: to maintain a spreadsheet like we do. Also, you Dropbox or Google Drive with your documents and all that, or paying someone tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it for you. And we're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, this is super inefficient. Like, I don't need to pay someone that much money. I don't need to work at managing my spreadsheet. Let's build a platform let's take our platform that we're building for ourselves and turn it into a whole new startup and business. And that's sort of like where Vyzer was born about a year, almost a little more than a year and a half ago. To take people like us who have those issues, who have that complex portfolio with multiple streams of passive income coming in and those more private placements, and build a platform that automates and helps them keep their passive income more passive. So that's sort of what brought us into what we're building today. The same process, right? Speaking with people like in the industry that are suffering from a problem, seeing what their current solutions are, and deciding that there's an opportunity here, there's an inefficiency, and let's solve it. Under the premise that if we bring enough value to people, we're going to charge money for it. Like one of the things that we also hated, like when we sold the company, there's some PR that comes out. Like you sell a startup, there's an exit. Okay, there's PR. Then you start to get bombarded by financial advisors, wealth managers. All right, I'm going to give me your money. I'll manage it. I'll give you this, that. And he's like, I don't think I need to give you my money at this moment. And if I do, then you're going to charge a fee from it. And then wait, if I give you my money and you're going to charge a fee from it, and I want to take money out of that and put it somewhere else, you're incentivized for me not to take my money out. So why would I? Anyway, so I'm not saying there aren't really good financial advisors and wealth managers out there. There are really amazing ones. I just think that when you're at that level of wealth where you have money, you can deploy it into more complex, interesting products, but not enough where it's like it makes sense to pay someone that much money. Like people that have tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, yeah, it makes sense. Hire someone to manage it for you. But in that segment with people that have money, but not that level, you're stuck with no really good solutions. So that's sort of what led to Vyzer.
There's a natural, almost like a conflict with financial advisors, especially when they're paid for assets under management, because they need your assets under management. So that's something that I have really struggled with, where I had saved, a good chunk of money for real estate investment. And I talked to a financial advisor about it. And he was like, yeah, put it in the stock market and then take a margin loan on it or whatever, take a loan on it and then buy the property with that. And I was like, that's too much risk for me, right? Like I saved this for real estate, right? Because he doesn't get paid if he tells me to go ahead with that, right? I don't necessarily think, again, I don't think that's necessarily his fault, but he's incentivized to advise against that, right? And I
Exactly.
totally feel you on the spreadsheet too. It gets so cumbersome. And I admire people. There's plenty of people on Twitter, they're doing net worth updates monthly. I'm like, hey, good for you. I don't have the time to update my net worth monthly. I really just don't. And there's more to it than net worth, right? So from what I've seen of Vyzer, and I've certainly been in the platform and you've walked me through it, from what I've seen, there's a lot of value that comes from holistically looking at everything. And there's also, from what I understand, you can help with cash flow too, right? And that helps you make decisions. So in me not looking at my net worth as regularly as I should be, I'm not taking a holistic approach to my finances. I might be working over here, working over here, working over here, digging my head in and not looking at the big picture, because I also don't want to pay somebody to do it for me. And I'm like, I got this graduate certificate in financial planning for something. I have a finance podcast for something, right? I read all these books for some reason, right? I want to do this myself, but I struggle a lot with it. So it's interesting that Vyzer is kind of this. I love how you said there's kind of a level of net worth where it makes a lot of sense. And there's also the complexity of your assets where it makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of the difference between DIYing on a spreadsheet and using a financial advisor. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and from the cash flows point, it's like, all right, so yeah, you have your net worth, or you understand what you're worth, and or if it went up or went down, and whatever market crashes or market goes up, and real estate prices go up. Well, that's all good, but the cash flow aspect of it is when you invest in. For me, I love investing passive, like in these real estate funds and syndications that they have these quarterly distributions. And so you put 100,000 into one of these deals, and you're expected to get, like, I don't know, 8% cash on cash every year, which is distributed every quarter. So you invested 100,000, and then you're supposed to get 2,000 every quarter. But then, sort of, when you invest in 5, 10, 15 of these deals, it's like you forget. And this is, again, I want to emphasize, these are good problems to have, right? But they're still like, I'll get an email from an operator that I invested in, and he'll say, yeah, all right, you're going to get 2,500 this quarter. And I'm like, all right, but how much did I invest? What was I supposed to get? And then the crazy thing is, after the email, I'll receive the email, but only a week or two later, the cash will appear in my bank account. And when it appears in my bank account, I'm going to forget even where it's from. And so, like, what we built is sort of like to automate that whole process. Like, well, Vyzer will, so you get an email from your operator, just forward it into Vyzer. And then we'll log it for you. We'll link in your bank account, and we'll identify that transaction and link it automatically to the investment, so that we'll update the performance. Same can be for the rental property. Like, you have a rental property and you have rent coming in. And if you have multiple rental properties, you have companies there are a bunch of really good property management companies like Appfolio and Stess and a bunch of others, I guess. They're really focused only on those rental properties, right? If you want to take that and put it in somewhere else, again, you have to maintain a spreadsheet. And so the idea is to have everything in one place. And to the extent that we even want to build integrations to these property management companies, so that everything can really be in one place and you don't have to log into multiple places and have that one source of truth. So yeah, and the second thing is that I'm in wealth creation mode. I made some money, but I want to grow it, and I want to grow my passive income as well. And so I want my cash to be deployed. And so one of the important things for us was to build this sort of graph to understand how my cash flow will look moving forward over time, based on all my different assumptions for my different cash flow and going in and out from different investments, my W-2, my cost of living or whatnot. Just have one place where I see how all that together will articulate and look moving forward, so that I'm not going to sit on too much cash, but not too little. So those are many aspects that sort of we're really interested in doing. And the last point, which I think is super interesting, is because we're focused on bringing value to people like us, like to the investor, and not to anyone else. We want to be able to show people like us transparently, anonymously, of course. And if they opt into it, what are people like them investing in? Like, I want to see which funds people are investing in, and then interact with people within Vyzer based on those funds. So to create this community within the platform, which is unbiased, because we're not taking anything AUM, we're just focused on bringing value and charging a flat membership fee for it, right? But it's just building that place where we're bringing a ton of value to people like us. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. That's awesome and that's fascinating. One of my biggest fears is this is silly, but it's like I collect 4 long-term rents right now. One of my biggest fears is like I'm literally gonna forget about one sometime. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna remember back to last month where I got the money and not remember to this month, right? And like I even did that the other day. I was talking, one of my tenants is having family come and stay in one of my short-term rentals. So they gave me the money for that. And then I almost forgot they hadn't paid me their long-term rent. It's so dumb, right? But I'm like, hey, while I have you, uh, did you pay rent? I just haven't seen. No, oh my gosh. Okay, right. So that's so fascinating. And I just want to stress, there's people behind this, right? Like that's what I think is important. There's people behind the Vyzer platform that are helping you in the background, right?
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're a team. Yeah, we have a team also of engineers, of analysts, and product people, and we've raised a nice amount of money. So like we're totally, we see ourselves as like this, in essence, this virtual family office that is trying to bring the same service that a $100 million net worth person gets from their family office, just like virtually,
Yep.
with people
Yep.
behind the scenes. But yeah, so that's sort of like what we're trying to build.
I love that. So we've talked about your 2 entrepreneurial journeys so far, Segoma and Vyzer. What advice do you have for anyone who's listening that's thinking about starting a business?
I think so. I'd say the most cliche part of that is just to jump in. But before doing that, it's really important. I've seen many entrepreneurs have this idea or have this problem they want to solve, and being too lazy to go and research enough to like understand the problem, understand the solutions that are trying to solve this problem, and then see where you can build a better solution, and then go and build it. But many times I've seen people dive in too fast just from because they I usually feel that they're just being too lazy to go and research it. But I think once you've found that problem that doesn't have a sufficient solution, it's just a matter of diving in. And again, in my world, which is tech, it's sort of like building that initial minimum valuable product, it's MVP, that would show that you can solve this problem with this solution. And then again, in my world, it's going and raising initial funding to build a solution for that problem. But so yeah, it's I think researching it to the extent where you don't sort of like get in this loophole where you just continue to research. Like you need to have that goal in your mind that I want to find all the solutions for this problem and then where I can do it better and then do it. That's sort of like,
Love it.
and again, yeah.
I think it can be cliche, like just do it. But I love that there's a balance there between just doing it, but also, putting in the work necessary to do it.
Yeah.
So is there anything else? Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm done. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, so there's nothing else you want to add before you wrap up?
Well, first of all, I mean, if we're wrapping it up, I wanted to say thank you. This has been awesome, and I really appreciate you for all the stuff you're bringing to Twitter and overall to the internet. So thanks for that, and I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks for reaching out. This has been so great. So, do you want to let people know how they can get in touch with Vyzer, in touch with you, and sign up for Vyzer?
Well, first of all, I'm really open and available on all sort of the social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm not on TikTok yet. I think I'm too old for that, but the other mediums I'm pretty available. Also, email Litan at Vyzer, Vyzer.co. Or you can just head over to our website, Vyzer.co. But love to hear from anyone who has anything to share, feedback, insights, input. Yeah, feel free to reach out to me.
Perfect. Good. So, everybody, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Adulting is Easy. I started a YouTube channel too, so that's very exciting. So, go on over there. We are recording video of this. If it turns out fine, that'll be over there as well. I'm also on Facebook. You can email me at realadultingiseasy@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Hopefully, we made adulting a little easier for you.